Hi there, Ischa here, and welcome back to The Higher Life, where I take concepts that are considered esoteric, spiritual, and new age, and unpack how you can apply these in a very practical way in your daily life today to greatly empower your life. The focus here at The Higher Life is all about empowerment. And how do you actually measure empowerment? How do you know when you've shifted out of a disempowering to an empowering way of being in the world? This is the focus of our inquiries here at Higher Life TV. But at the end of the day, what I really want to offer you is a range of tips and tools and methodologies that I've explored in my own process of moving through this pathway of personal transformation, wanting to live my life in a way where I feel like I'm able to be open fully to the unfolding, to optimize on high potential opportunities that move my way, and to be able to discern between activities, events, and people that are worth my attention and perhaps ones that I can easily bypass. And these are not skills that we're taught at school or in our education environment up until now, at least. I do think that in the next decade we'll see a really radical shift in what we focus on through the education process as we raise younger human beings. And the Higher Life Academy is really at its core an educational process, providing you with a new mindset and toolkit so that you can wake up every single day into your daily life and really extract the beauty and the wisdom and the joy that is constantly available to us. But at its base, what we're really looking at here is how to engage with your naturalness and allow this naturalness to manifest through you in such a powerful way that you are really living to your fullest potential. And I really want to link naturalness and full potential in this lesson on what is an empowered ego or the empowered self. Now, I'm really going to focus here on the concept of an ego, because I think that this is where we can gain a lot of wisdom about the journey that we're going through here as a species, as humanity, and also in our personal lives. In the higher life work that I've been doing up until now, I discern between what is called your true self and your socially conditioned or culturally conditioned or conditioned self known as the ego. But in this lesson, I want to fine-tune that a little bit more because I feel that this discernment will really create a lot of oxygen and spaciousness in our journey through personal transformation and perhaps alleviate some of the confusion around the role of an ego in our experience, because the ego is often demonized or at least seen as a problem self. But what I've spoken to many times here at The Higher Life is the ego is really that part of our experience that is malleable, it's open to conditioning, and therefore we could perceive it as our conditioned self. However, what I want to do here is swap out ego for psychology and speak to the fact that we have what is called a basic nature as human beings. We might refer to this as our true self or our most natural state or way of being in the world. And it's our birthright. We're born into this experience of our own naturalness. And if we're blessed and have the certain set of conditions available to us, what we will do is learn to thrive through our life in our natural state. However, what we know to be true is that most of humanity, if not all of it, rarely actually is able to be born into a natural state and maintain that naturalness all the way through their life without corruption. And we're going to refer to corruption as conditioning. That is any type of external influence or internal influence, that is, it's in the genetic structure of the human being that interferes with the naturalness or asks for or manipulates with that naturalness so that it can meet an expectations that is not in service of that person's natural capacity to thrive. And in the family unit or any kind of human system, we often see this corruption or conditioning play out because for the system to thrive, it believes it needs to manipulate the individuals within it to let go of their own agenda of being here and expressing themselves fully, and redirect their energy into the agenda of the whole, or the system that they belong to. And I've unpacked this in many other videos. So what I'm speaking to today is that we have this natural self, this natural baseline self, and then we have what is perceived as an ego, which is our psychology. It is this psychological patterning that self or natural self is conditioned by or lives its life through. So therefore, when I refer to an ego being unhealthy, healthy, or empowered, we're looking at different psychological states which the true self operates through. Now, when the true self is operating through an unhealthy ego or an unhealthy psychology, it is very enmeshed and therefore dysfunctional. That is, the true self has become so conditioned by the environment or the conditions or the programming that it no longer knows itself at all and lives its life entirely in a codependency with these influencing forces. For example, maybe completely codependent or enmeshed with their family, or their cultural system, or their gender, or their religious system, or some internal programming which just has them using their energy in a way that really doesn't feel natural. Now, people with a very enmeshed psychology may not know what it is to be in their natural state. This may be the journey of their lifetime on earth for this time round. Now, if you have what is perceived as a healthy ego, which, there's a fair few people on the planet that have an unhealthy ego and a healthy ego, not quite sure about the empowered. A healthy ego would suggest that even though you are subject to the normal cultural conditioning or social conditioning, you are not completely enmeshed. You do have a sense of your own naturalness. That naturalness does play out to some degree in the roles and functions that you take on through your lifetime. And you have been conditioned by your culture or your family or your society. So your psychology is relatively healthy in that you can function well in the world. You have a sense of your own autonomy. However, it is still open to that conditioning, and you are still using your energy to serve some kind of cultural or social expectation. And I think many of us fall into that category of, perceiving our sense of self through our work life, through our relationships, through our roles and functions, and really wanting to perform well and strive for excellence. And this would be where this healthy ego shows its dysfunction, because you're not really fully owning your naturalness and letting your energy flow and your creative power flow through what you would naturally do if you hadn't been conditioned by the cultural expectations or societal expectations. These are really simple things. I suffer from this myself. This idea that if I'm not working out in the workforce, I'm somehow failing in my potential as a modern woman, or I'm failing my family by not being able to provide in the way that this very expensive lifestyle that we're all living right now is asking of me. I mean, we've really fallen into, at least in the middle class, this idea that the lifestyle requires both parents to work, or everyone in the family to be working, and then there is no one available for all the other non-paid work that is essential to our well-being as a species. And I've spoken to this as well in many videos over this time here at The Higher Life. So if you are at an unhealthy ego, if you're operating through an unhealthy ego psychology or an unhealthy psychology, very enmeshed, quite dysfunctional, acting out in ways that you can just sense isn't in your best interest, your journey would be to move from an unhealthy ego to a healthy ego. But if you are what was known as a functioning ego, you have a relatively healthy psychology, the next step for you would be to transform into an empowered ego or empowered psychology. And what does this empowered psychology feel like and look like? How would we describe it? I mean, this is something I dive deeper into in this foundation course, Awaken the Genius Within, when I do a section on the 3 levels of ego and how we can work with this and cultivate it. And what I do at Awaken the Genius Within is introduce you to your inner self and the 3 layers of your inner self, and help you build a very strong foundation of this sense of self that operates out of the true self, that is quite natural, that you can really lean into as you seek to face up to some of this conditioning and unhealthy psychology that is driving your life. And when you go through this process, you're really fine-tuning your personal power, because in an unhealthy psychology, we feel powerless in our lives, and we have given our power away completely to the systems that have conditioned us. In a healthy psychological state, we have claimed back some of that personal power, and there's kind of a zigzagging between owning your power or operating through your personal power and giving it away. And I think that we see in the human collective, we're really in this space of trying to work that out, really contemplating and exploring and examining personal power. What is it really? What is it not? Where do we believe we are powerful when it's actually a false form of power? And where do we believe we're powerless when we actually have a lot of power? And a lot of it comes down to perception, the way our attitude towards what we perceive to be happening in our lives, and our responsibility or accountability for it. Sometimes we're over-responsible, under-responsible, over-accountable, under-accountable. So we really are exploring this as a species at the moment and coming up with a lot of clarity around, what is the source of an unhealthy psychology and what is the source of a healthy psychology. But underneath, this is just the empowered psychology. It includes all of this whole process. It is actually the outcome of moving through this process from an unhealthy to a healthy. And what we see is when we go through this questioning, this inquiry on what is power really, what is my power in the world, you naturally go through different processes and forms of self-exploration that help you strip back the conditioning completely. And what you arrive back at, ironically, is what you started with, which is you strip back to your naturalness. But you strip back to your naturalness with newfound knowing and wisdom, because you've actually been through the process of losing contact or losing an alignment with your naturalness, acting out of a false self or unhealthy ego state, coming back into a healthier ego state, and then realizing that an empowered psychology is when you are acting in your full power as in your most natural state. So it's kind of the return of naturalness, natural cycles, natural timing, natural flow, natural ingredients. That naturalness, it's really calling out to us. People returning back to the crafts, wanting to be closer to the food sources, closer to the earth which the food comes back from. It's not a regression. We're not going back to what was. We're moving forward to what's becoming. And this naturalness, it will be held in our hearts with a new level of appreciation and devotion, because we know what it's like. You often only appreciate something that was truly valuable when you've lived without it, when you've lost it. And in claiming it back, you claim back what is valuable, you claim back what wants to continue on, and in the process you let go of those aspects of the old dynamic or the old regime that no longer serves. So it's kind of like a cleansing, purifying process. We're purifying and refining our personal power at this time in history. In service of the next era or evolution of humanity that is coming, that is something that we just can't imagine right now, but something that will be lighter, purer, more agile and creative than we have known ourselves to be as a species. The return to naturalness, to wholeness, will happen with a whole new wisdom that will enrich and energize it, I guess. We all need to be energized and inspired by a sense of freshness and newness and naturalness, but we want to hold on to what makes us authentic. Not even hold on, just support the maintenance of things that are truly timeless within us and within our whole human experience. So here at the Higher Life Academy, the work that I do is primarily helping myself and others move from this dysfunctional or unhealthy to healthy to empowered. And I zigzag. There's areas where I probably feel more I'm operating out of an empowered psychology, areas where it's a healthy psychology, and areas where it's an unhealthy psychology. It's kind of a mixed bag, and that's the adventure. I kind of zigzag. It's not like there's this one outcome where we're fully empowered. That may happen, but it doesn't need to happen to enjoy the adventure or the process of personal transformation. So what's really happening here in a nutshell in personal transformation? The true self, your natural state, is moving through various psychologies. The psychology can either be enmeshed and dysfunctional, functional and healthy but slightly conditioned, or empowered where that natural sense of self is thriving. You're expressing your unique self fully, free from cultural and societal conditioning. What a wonderful space to be playing in. If this sounds interesting to you, I highly recommend checking out our courses, The Empowered Way, as a precursor to Awaken the Genius Within, where we deep dive and I lead you through a coaching process to really identify this naturalness in you, this true self, the creative way it plays out in your life, and the kind of conditioning that might be affecting your capacity to live in a truly empowered way. So until next time, take care and love life.